time for Zoomers. This is just a way to do that, no cap. Listen to the Avoiding Babylon podcast. Do you want a Catholic glow up? Then finna listen to Avoiding Babylon with Anthony and Rob. Rob be risen, Anthony be bussin', haters be sussin'. Avoiding Babylon. Avoiding Babylon. You can check them out on Locals and YouTube and Avoiding Babylon.
I think that's his best work.
I hate it.
Best work yet. I don't get the merce. I don't know why I was wearing a merce. But I love
hate it. I hate it. No.
What's funny is, doesn't your son have that exact haircut?
Yes. So for anyone that doesn't know, I never watched the intro videos beforehand. Rob just sees them because I kind of like to be surprised. It's like
Tells Taffy no music, gets all music.
Well, I think that's all AI, right?
Yeah, it won't.
That should be fun. I don't. Yeah, that was awful, man. Oh my gosh, what a terrible intro.
And never had that hair, but he had frosted tips.
No,
I
had when I was in like middle school up until like maybe 10th grade, I had hair down like here. Like I had like, I mean, it was
Kurt Cobain hair.
Yeah, it was the 90s. It was like, I think I probably got pictures of that. Nicole probably does. I'll try to find them. But yeah, man, I had like, we all grew our hair long back then. It wasn't like the Zoomers where it was just puffy on top. Like you grew your hair long. You grew it like Kurt Cobain back then.
Oh man, that was great.
There are about 18 spots left for the pilgrimage, by the way. So we're doing Italy in November 30th to December 9th. It's an interesting group that's reaching out to me. It's a lot of young people, man, like people in their 20s, single, like guys and girls. Then our friend Courtney, who we met in North Carolina, asked me about it. He's possibly bringing his wife and his 19-year-old. I'm bringing my wife and 3 kids. So my son's 20, my daughter's 9. It's going to be a very young group. And then there's obviously going to be older people there too, but I think this might be like a really young pilgrimage group, which I'm really looking forward to. So I'm just saying I'm not doing a complete rundown, and you don't care, Jim, because you're already in. So Jim doesn't want to hear about it anymore because he's already in. Jim's coming, but yeah, we're doing Rome, Pompeii, and Assisi. So it's a beautiful.
Don't forget Monte Cassino.
Lanciano,
Loretta.
Mass every day. We have a priest that says the Latin Mass. Gonna be a Latin Mass pilgrimage. Any chance we get, there may be a Novus Ordo 1 or 2 if it has to. But it is going to be an amazing trip, and it is very affordable compared to all the other prices I'm seeing. One of my friends posted a picture of his parish doing one. It's like $8,000. I'm like, that's crazy. Like Taylor's doing one in February. His is about 1,100 more than mine. Joshua Charles is doing.
That's how much his presence is worth more.
Yeah. I mean, he's a way bigger name than us, and but the thing is, I don't know if he's going to get down in the mud with the riffraff like I will. Like I'm hanging out with everybody. Like and
by that you mean drinking late into the night.
Drinking late into the night every night. Like I'm really looking forward to, as much as seeing all the holy sites, getting to hang out with everybody after dinner.
4,200.
It's 4,200, Tom. And I saw Tom at Mass on.
That's minus flights, right?
Yes, minus flights. But flights to Rome in December are only about 500 round trip. So it's a very cheap time to fly. That's why we chose December. That's how we got the prices that low. Rome is empty in December. That's another reason we chose to go at that time. It's going to be an amazing trip. So if you guys want, there's about 18 spots left. This thing, dude, we had more after me announcing that one show than we had on the last pilgrimage for the whole pilgrimage. Like I did one announcement, and like I can't even tell you how many people reached out. I couldn't believe it how quick it went. So yeah, 500 from JFK. Well, but I think anywhere in the country.
We had 12,000 subscribers last time compared to 53,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and I'm really excited to get to meet everybody. It's going to be a really fun time. So but yeah, so which we're staying in like 4+ star hotels, like 4 or better. it's going to be a really, really nice trip. If you guys saw the places we're going. So if you guys are interested, just email me at Anthony at avoidingbabylon.com, and I will send you the itinerary so I don't have to drag on about it on the show. We'll get to the topic in a second. Also, while we are doing housekeeping, Recuse and Sellers.
Okay, you are doing that one. Okay.
Please visit recuseandsellers.com. Use code BASED at checkout for 10% off. Recuse and Sellers is amazing. I ordered 3 bottles from them the other day. I'm gifting one to my in-laws. I'm gifting one to my parents, and I'm keeping one. And when it gets here, I will be drinking it on the show with you guys to celebrate. Tonight, so recuseandsellers.com. Use code BASED at checkout for 10% off. You could put pre-orders in for their fruit that comes in the spring. They are amazing supporters of the show. We love Recusant. They stick with us through thick and thin. So.
We were possibly going to do our first official Fat Thin ad tonight, but they asked me not to because they actually completely sold out of their first batch.
Look at that. Just from being mentioned on our show, probably.
So they have a second batch coming in the next week or two.
Okay. So yeah, all right. So it gets 20% off. I double dip. All right.
He definitely does double dip.
I double dip. I get the 10% off, and then I get the what is the commission for selling it?
Then you get 10% for selling.
Like, I split the commission with you, though. Yeah.
You know what? I'm okay with.
Yeah. I was going to say
with this because I'm getting 5% of your order because you used the code.
I'm gonna have to ask them about the morality of what I'm doing using our own promo code. But all right. So Archbishop Fulton Sheen. So here's what we're gonna do tonight. Obviously, we're gonna talk about Archbishop Fulton Sheen. I want to talk about Scott Adams. We're gonna talk about the Roche document. And then on locals, I'm thinking there's a civil war in Protestantism right now over interracial marriage. Ruslan is about to debate Joel Webbin. And I have a bit of a nuanced view on that topic. Like, I don't necessarily fall.
You're Sicilian, you have to.
Yeah, it's not. I'm sure our Zoomer audience is not going to, be fully on board. Like, I do think there are issues there, but I also I don't know. We'll get into it on the other side. We're going to discuss that. And then I have some inside baseball about what I'm doing this weekend that you guys will want to hear. I could use some advice.
I'm obligated to, at some point tonight, have Iggy on the show because last night Maddie was on the Guns N' Rosary show. Okay. And he wanted Iggy to be on the show so I could splice the 2 clips of them together for, I don't know, Maddie being Maddie.
Maddie wants to be like Daddy, is what it is. Maddie wants to broadcast.
Yeah, he does. He does. He wants to start a channel where him and I talk about space in Catholicism.
And we're gonna see if we could set him up with Jason's son. Jason's son is 9, and he's got some awesome theories about space too. So that might actually be a funny little thing.
By the way, the way you said this was stupid. I have inside knowledge about what I plan to do this week.
No, what I meant inside, like, you guys like when we spill the tea. Like, that's what Molly says. She's like, I like when you guys spill the tea. So I have some inside baseball stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Anthony's going to an event this weekend with some big names, and he wants to spill the tea a little on it.
Well, that's what
he's really not supposed to.
I'm not supposed to, but we'll do
it.
Like,
if you guys side. if you hear him start to talk about Tucker Carlson, earmuffs immediately because he's not supposed to.
You guys will see. We'll talk about it on the other side. So if you guys aren't locals members, join our locals show. It's gonna be a fun one over there. So Bishop Sheen, Rob, you had a good tweet today. It looks like maybe there's some benefits to having a bishop from Illinois get elected to the papacy, huh?
Yeah. It looks like we're finally getting the Sheen beatification finally,
which really is overdue. And it's kind of a shame how that whole thing went down, where it was already in motion to happen. And then the Diocese of Peoria kind of had a battle with Dolan, because Dolan wanted Sheen's remains to remain at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Right.
And Peoria wanted his remains back there. And then it got into this bickering match, and it prevented the beatification. Now, I think there were other politics that went into it also, because, look, I mean, trads want to make it out like Sheen was a perfect guy when it came to a lot of stuff, but I mean, he was a Vatican II guy. Let's be very clear about that. But
yeah, towards the end, yeah, but everyone was except for
it's kind of hard to, right. So it's kind of hard to Monday morning quarterback or hindsight is 2020 look at that situation, and they were dealing with the obedience dilemma at the time. Like there was a real obedience dilemma. It's like
we're still dealing with that
100%. And it was especially once Lefebvre broke and Lefebvre ordained those bishops, like that stuff was crazy in the church. And it looks like there's a schism about to form. Like, I don't know where, I mean, I know where I fell on that side of the debate before Francis. Right. Yeah. Like I know where I fell on it before Francis. It was Francis coming that made me start questioning all that stuff. But like at the time, man, if you were a Catholic in the 80s, 90s, and you know, when did Bishop Sheen die?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Can you look
I want to say it was in the late 70s or
late 70s, early 80s, probably, right?
Someone will tell us. I'm not even gonna look it up. Someone will tell us.
Yeah, like that, all that stuff is going on. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, and you were told that John Paul II was a living saint. You know, it was John Paul II and Mother Teresa, and it isn't until like 2016, 2017 that I was right,
late 70s, 79.
Yeah, I think it's 79. It wasn't until like 2017 that I even had the courage to go back and kind of look at the CC meetings and John Paul II presiding over the abuse crisis and all that stuff. And then even the conversation with EMJ about Benedict was pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Talking about Benedict being like having that classic Midwest personality, even though he's not from the Midwest, like that passive aggressive attitude, you know, and finding out that Benedict was behind a lot of the stuff on the schemas for the actual councils. So, you know,
he was.
Bishop Sheen was at the council. He was pretty big into religious liberty. These guys are all coming from an American perspective. It's hard for me to judge the man in hindsight, is all I'm saying.
I mean, the guy was right and nearly prophetic about so much that, you know what? He didn't bat 1,000. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. Man, have you ever, I'm pretty sure you've heard it, where Sheen predicts the anti-church.
Yeah.
Like that prophecy. Yeah. I mean, we call it a prophecy, but it really maps out where it's, I mean, it looks like the ape of the church. That's what he called it, right? The ape of the church. Yeah, that's Sheen's prophecy about the ape of the church. So it's so accurate that you see a lot of trads using that language, calling certain things that are happening the ape of the church. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, no, I don't. I had a couple of people say to me, like, "Are you going to bring up that Sheen's a modernist?" And it's like, I don't. No, like I love Bishop Sheen, like his homilies or like his show, all those talks he gave on those shows. They had such a big part in my conversion. So
is your middle name James?
No, Alan. My dad's name. My dad's name's Alan Anthony Abadi. I'm Anthony Alan Abadi.
James didn't seem right.
Yeah, I don't know. James, are you out of your mind? So I'm very happy about Sheen. There are like tons of miracles attributed to Sheen. There's like babies dying and coming back to life and stuff. Like there's some pretty really good miracles to attribute his frisbee.
You're the ape of Long Island.
I mean, I'm not even gonna argue against that. So yeah, that's that. I think that's pretty good news that Sheen's getting beatified. They even set a date for it.
Did they set? Because I saw September. Did they have an official date?
It might be at the June consistory.
Really? I thought I was seeing September all over.
Maybe you did. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. I could just be making that up because I know there's a consistory in June happening again.
Yeah.
Speaking of consistories, should we get into the consistory that just happened?
Oh boy. Oy vey.
Should we get into the consistory that just happened? Should we talk about the Cardinal Roche?
You want me to bring up the actual letter from him?
Yeah, let's bring it up. So Diane Montagna, honestly, I mean, I'm not usually the biggest fan of women journalists. They're usually pretty terrible.
I don't know how she does it. She's good.
Diane Montagna is
definitely better than that Daily Wire chick they have over there.
Yeah, right. Bree, whatever her name is.
Bree Dahl or whatever.
Bree Dahl.
She let's see. She went after Trevor at Trident one time and claimed he was a felon.
She blocked
Not
me.
sure how she got that info.
She works for the Daily Wire.
Yeah, that's true. They just make crap up.
I mean, she works for the Daily Wire. She's terrible. But yeah, so Cardinal Roche. So this consistory happens. Leo says that the conversation is going to be he gave like 4 topics, and one of those topics was liturgy. So a lot of people went into this thinking that liturgy was going to be a topic that was discussed, and then Cardinal Roche drops this letter on the to the Cardinals,
so
this 2-page letter that never gets discussed.
Yeah, we don't have to go through this. We can go down the letter, but basically this is they were going to discuss 4 topics: evangelization, the curia, the synod, and the liturgy. It was only 2 days long, so they only discussed 2 things, and of course it was evangelization in the synod, and they of course didn't talk about the things that actually need to be talked about. So here's the text.
Do we have to go through this whole thing in the life of the church? Because this is a pretty long thing.
The big things to point out is the only time he cites anything besides Vatican II is in number 2 there, where he basically says Trent and Quo Primum are wrong, and then everything else he cites is either Vatican II.
He says Trent and Quo Primum.
No, not really. No.
Okay, so St. Pius V, in facing the reform of the liturgical books in observance of the mandate of the Council of Trent, was moved by the will to preserve the unity of the church in the bull Quo Primum, with which was promulgated the Roman Missal, affirms that as in the Church of God, there is only one way of reciting the Psalms, so there ought to be only one rite for celebrating the Mass. So he's using Quo Primum to justify Traditionis Custodes.
It does seem that way later on, yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. Where's the
one everyone's talking about?
Yeah, the one everybody's talking about. We probably should have known this before we started.
Hold on.
Because there's something
right here, number 10.
Okay,
the use of liturgical books that the council sought to reform was from JP2 to Francis, a concession that in no way envisaged their promotion. So basically, he's saying that the use of the TLM was allowed, but was never, ever meant to in any way promote it or let it grow.
Which flies in the face of Summorum Pontificum. Like if you just read Summorum Pontificum talked about mutual enrichment, that actually having the 2 rites at one parish might enrich one another. And look, I catch a little crap for this, but I do think in those diocesan parishes where the Latin Mass is said, where they do have both forms, like it's definitely anecdotal. Like it's definitely anecdotal, and it's just my particular experience. So I don't want to say this like as a broad thing because I don't know what it's like in other places, but in my particular area, there's something I feel more at home in those diocesan TLMs than I do at the SSPX. That's just anecdotal. I know tons of people that go to the SSPX and they feel right at home at them, and they're beautiful communities, but my particular experience is that. And but I also don't have like an FSSP near me. I don't have a institute near me, so I don't know what those are like. I don't know if it's just this particular chapel. I don't know. It could be anything, but there is some bit of mutual enrichment, I think, that does.
I would say obviously the TLM enriches
the Novus Ordo.
The Novus Ordo, right? You see that in parishes that do both. The Novus Ordo is far better than your average Novus Ordo at a Novus Ordo only parish. So the liturgy of the Novus Ordo is certainly enriched by the TLM, whereas in the TLM, it's not the liturgy that is enriched, because of course it cannot be enriched by a committee made thing. It's the congregation in a sense gets kind of the weirder aspects of trads get leveled out by
It
some of
is
the
interesting, right, Rob? So I kind of want to talk about it. All right, can you bring up your tweet actually? Oh, let's finish this paragraph and then I want to go through your tweet because it's something we kind of have to discuss.
yeah.
So okay, so where did you leave off? Okay.
Well, Francis, while granting in accordance with Traditionis the use of the 1962 Missale Romanum, pointed the way to unity in the use of the liturgical books promulgated by Paul VI and JP2. In accordance, how were they promulgated by JP2 any more so than like I don't know.
So, but there's another part in this thing where he actually says, "I don't see how some like he poses like this weird thing where he like doesn't understand how somebody can accept the council." And it talks about the ecclesiology. It might be later in it.
There's nothing. No, it would have to be earlier because there's really not much later in it. It's just quotes from Francis.
I'll find it. Because I saw so what's his name? He actually, hang on, I'll get it. Sorry guys, bear with us. Joe Enders tweeted something about it. Okay, so this is what it actually says. It says concerning, okay, so the problematic is primarily ecclesiological. I do not see how it is possible to say that one recognizes the validity of the council, though it amazes me that a Catholic might presume not to do so, and at the same time not accept the liturgical reform born out of the Sacrosanctum Concilium, a document that expresses the reality of the liturgy intimately joined.
Are you sure that's not just what? That's just what? No, that's just what Joe's saying.
No, this is taken from the text. Rome. Oh, this is probably from Traditionis.
I don't know. All I know
this is from Traditionis. It says Rome, August 1st, 2026. No, 1/8. This is from today. It's definitely in this document.
I'm telling you, it's not in this text.
He took a screenshot of it. Look up ecclesiological.
I can't. It's a photo.
Yeah. We're the worst. We should have had this. Keep going.
Oh, right here.
There you go.
It's a quote from Francis. It's from Desideravi. Yeah.
Okay, so if the liturgy is the summit toward which the activity of the church is directed, and at the same time the font from which all her power flows, well, then we can understand what is at stake in the liturgical question. It would be trivial to read the tensions, unfortunately present around the celebration, as a simple divergence between different tastes concerning a particular ritual form. I agree with that.
The tensions were created by you, Francis.
It's not a difference in tastes. I kind of agree with that statement.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's not.
The problematic is primarily ecclesiological. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do not see how it is possible to say that one recognizes the validity of the council. That I disagree with. Like, you can recognize the validity of the council while also saying there are problems in the council.
Not create the Novus Ordo.
Though it amazes me that a Catholic might presume not to do so, and at the same time not accept the liturgical reform born out of the Sacrosanctum Concilium, because this is so much problem. This is so problematic. A document that expresses the reality of the liturgy intimately joined to the vision of church, not vision of the church, vision of church, so admirably described in Lumen Gentium. So what do they say about the Eastern rites?
Nothing.
Like, it's just, it makes no sense because there are different rites in the church. Like, I just think they need to make this thing by ritual.
Yeah, but they'll do the thing where they'll say the Novus Ordo is the Roman rite, right? And that the TLM
I don't care what they call it, Rob. I just want to be left alone. Like, I just want to be left alone.
I get it.
I really just want to be left alone. It's like,
they'll never leave it alone, though, because it will grow.
Yeah.
They'll stomp it out.
It's just anybody that like had, because I remember there was like all this talk of Leo's going to use synodality to bring the Latin Mass back in. And it's like, man, the best line Tim Gordon ever came up with was, Cope Springs Eternal or something. It's like Cope Springs Eternal, because it was just Cope. Like the idea that we're going to have restrictions loosened, just give it up. Like, let it go. Honestly, it might be good. No, it won't be good. I won't say that.
You were going to go a little far.
I was going to go a little far and say it might be good if they take away our diocesan TLM. But you know what? It kind of like separates the wheat from the chaff, man.
It already has.
It's like, come on, how much do you love this mass? Like you think back to our conversation with Bishop Schneider and the stories he told about going to mass as a kid, and how it would take them the entire day. They would have to travel by train, and then it would take them the entire day just to go to the mass. And it had such a profound effect on him. It led to his vocation, and it just led to a deeper level. He saw how seriously his parents took the mass. And when we asked Bishop Schneider, we said, is there any kind of justification for not attending mass if you have a parish where there are altar girls and you have Eucharistic ministers? And we kind of laid out a lot of the liturgical issues at a Novus Ordo parish. And he said, no, you can't miss mass. You need to travel to a mass that's good. Like, I don't care if it's 8 hours away. And he told us about his experience of having to travel an entire day just to attend mass on a Sunday. So, it comes down to that. But Rob, bring up your tweet about, and I want to read Majorian's tweet too, because
Majorian put it way better than I did.
But you started the conversation, and it is an interesting conversation to have. And it's going to touch on some of the stuff I'm going to be dealing with this weekend. But the trad movement itself under Leo kind of just seems a little bit like kind of crushed now. So Rob said, I hate to break it to everyone, but the trad movement is no longer a youth movement. It's aging. It's firmly a movement of middle-aged people, us included, obviously, and it grows further and further out of touch with young people daily. So let's read what Majorian said, because Majorian kind of encapsulated it a little deeper.
Let me pull it up here. Give me a second.
So look, the thing is, and I think this goes to this goes to us actually having experience with John Paul II and Benedict. It really does, because, and it goes, and it kind of relates to Bishop Sheen as well. Under John Paul II, so for a lot of the younger people, or a lot of people who don't remember what it was like to be Catholic under JP2 and Benedict, like, you had, in hindsight, you can look and point out all these problems, but in the time, you had these fierce defenders of life. John Paul II spoke out against homosexuality, and he talked about how important marriage was. We're going to talk about marriage as a vocation later, because John Paul II is the one who kind of elevated it to that language of using the word vocation for marriage.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
JP2, he spoke about against homosexuality, but it was at a period in time when the majority of the culture did so as well.
Yeah.
Do you think in today's day and age, he would be as firmly opposed to it as he was?
It's hard to say,
because I'm not sure anymore.
I'm not either.
He
especially because
seemed to love the adulation of people so much that to have the youth firmly against him because of something, I don't know.
And there was, I guess the culture was still like there was no gay marriage yet. Like, but even Benedict, like Benedict constantly talked about like the spirit of Antichrist.
Yeah, but Benedict wasn't JP2. Benedict,
no, you're right.
One crap what people thought of him.
Yeah. Oh, he did too. I think everybody does to a degree, right? But you're right. John Paul II, that's a good question. I don't know about John Paul II, but either way, like, you still had this fierce defender of life. You had this man speaking out against communism, talking about Catholic solidarity. Like, you still got documents that kind of were forceful about doctrine, like moral issues, so it was just a very different time. So people that were formed in that, like even guys like Larry Chapp, man, Like Larry Chapp is such a hermeneutic of continuity guy.
Yeah.
He's a Vatican II guy. But when Francis came along, it like really broke a lot of people, and they were like, wait a minute, this is nothing like, you know, and we went from John Paul II to Benedict, which seemed like even a ratcheting back of even the things that John Paul II did. Like some of the craziness on the John Paul II got ratcheted back even further by Benedict. You start getting the Latin Mass being freed, and people are allowed to look. You could say what you want. Summorum Pontificum, if it wasn't for that document, most people today would not have any experience of the Latin Mass. They wouldn't have access to it. The only places you would get it is the FSSP and the SSPX. It was Benedict who introduced your diocesan priests to this thing, and it was the trad movement that existed at the time that pushed for it. They would go into these parishes and they would get a group of 20-30 people together and ask the priest to learn it, and that's how Summorum worked. It was like if you had a group of stable believers who weren't schismatic and they just kind of wanted the beauty of the ancient rite, they would placate, like not placate, they would accommodate. And that's kind of how this movement grew. So to be formed under that,
we figured you were busy for your birthday, Enoch. We didn't want to bother
your birthday, dude.
What are you doing watching us?
So to have all these Catholics be formed under that kind of catechesis, like when Francis comes along, it shattered a lot of people, right? Whereas the younger guys are coming in under Francis. And I learned this from my conversation with Catholics for Rednecks the other day. Like he converts under Francis and he comes in and he's just so enamored with the Catholic faith that he doesn't even want to hear the negativity. Like to him, it's like everybody that's saying a bad thing about the Pope is lying. And then all of a sudden he comes across under Leo, ironically, the gay pilgrimage that comes to Rome, and that's what breaks him. So, you know, it's the fact that people that grew up under JP2 and Benedict, now you get Francis and you see the Latin Mass get restricted. Those are the people that go to the Latin Mass. Like most of the people that attend the Latin Mass today are not like diehard trads that were raised trad. They're JP2 Catholics who, especially during COVID, when the regular parishes were being shut down or people were fiddling with their masks and dropping hosts on the ground, people were like, I've had enough of this craziness.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm going to seek out something better and more reverent. And they went and they found a Latin Mass, and then they fell in love with it. In some ways, like when I talked to Kevin from Catholic Family Podcast, he's a cradle sede. I was like, you know, I kind of feel like you.
In other words, he's a unicorn.
Yeah, like, but like, I kind of feel like, dude, you didn't suffer like us. Like you gotta put your time in the Novus Ordo before you get to go to Tradland. Like you need your street cred. If you didn't suffer through gather us in, like, are you really Catholic, man? Come on.
How can you talk about the crisis when you've never experienced it?
Seriously, man, you lived in a bubble. You don't know what we went through. Let's bring up Patrick's tweet. Patrick's comment we're doing this on the other side, bud.
Yeah, that's gonna be on. Well, you can't.
We're doing this on the other side because I do have.
We'll read it now, but
we'll read it obviously. Yeah. On interracial marriage, Ant's old tweet was right. I forgot I tweeted this. Yeah, men should strive to marry the most attractive, virtuous girl they can, not whether she's the same race as you, like the Groypers say. Plus, men should strive for virtue to get a girl like that. That's just kind of my position on it. Like, we'll do it on the other side, but like, to me, your values and your religion far exceed what you look like. Like I look at it like, especially because I know a few interracial couples, and it's like the pickings are so slim nowadays to find somebody who actually believes the Catholic faith and takes it seriously. Like, I think what your job is to pass that pearl of great price on to the next generation. And if you don't have someone to do that with, just because you want your kids to look a certain way, like that's just kind of going to be.
I would say if the pickings are so slim, anyways, go for perfect. Why not?
Well, we'll get into it on the other side. I mean, I'm open to my mind being changed on it. You know, I'm open to my mind being changed on it. I kind of, Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm talking from my own experience. I married my wife looks like my children all look like the Hitler Youth. I mean, my kids are all blonde hair, blue eyes. It's not like I'm trying to, you know what I mean? I'm just saying I see
if your kids married someone that looked like them, they couldn't marry someone that looked like you.
Right. Oh man. Like, I don't know. Look, we'll talk about it on the other side, because it is a controversial topic, and I have some opinions on the debate that's going to happen with Ruslan and Joel Webbin. Like, I don't know if Ruslan's the right guy to have that debate, because Ruslan's in an interracial marriage, and I think the topic is too close to his heart. And I think when a topic is that close to your heart, you take it too personally, and you can't look at something objectively.
I think it's hilarious watching Protestants try to debate something as like niche and difficult as this when they can't even get the flipping basics right. It's like, are you people nuts? Why don't you
did you see what they were doing to Joel Webbin? Like, all these Protestants coming out, and they're basically like, "You're dissenting from tradition." like you're,
whoa. Slow down.
You're dissenting from tradition. You're not in line with all the other. We're going to have to tell people that it's like they're trying to excommunicate
you from traditional Protestantism.
It's hilarious, man.
What?
So we'll do that on the other side.
Do you want to read Majorian's tweet?
Yeah, let's bring Majorian's tweet up. God, you get
it. So this is quote tweeting mine. He says, "I think this is basically right. Most of my recent anti-trad takes," and he's not anti-trad in any sense of the word, but have come from
he goes to a society chapel.
Yeah.
he's an SSPX guy. So he's like, and firstly, I want to make sure, because I did see an SSPX guy respond to you, and they were like, "This is not my experience at all." And he gave an anecdote. But what Rob is
then I said something. He's like, "I don't want you engaging. Please disengage with me." It's like you replied to my tweet, a-hole.
Exactly. But I think especially what Rob is talking about is kind of the online presentation is definitely one angle of it, and the propaganda isn't the same. Like, it's not working like it did on us, right? And
the intellectual and institutional side of traditionalism is aged at this point, and it's the same. They've been saying the same stuff since the council, right? Like, and they refuse to engage with anything that's actually happening in our daily world that young people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. They refuse to engage with that. They tell young men to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and then they go on to talk about that stupid Ottaviani intervention. It's like, are you joking me? A 20-year-old kid does not need to hear a damn thing about the Ottaviani intervention. He wants to know how to get a job, how to get a wife, how to have and raise kids, and you're talking about this nonsense from 80 years ago. Are you stupid?
It's kind of like this. It's like, when we look at what they did at the consistory, right? We're like, dude, the world is falling apart right now. Like, things are like the Antichrist could be on the world stage right now, and you guys are talking about synodality and the Second Vatican Council. Like, what the hell world are you guys living in? But there's something about, like, just focusing on criticizing that and just still focusing on Vatican II, that's kind of doing the same thing. So it's like, ironically, the trads are stuck in the same place that the bishops are. The bishops are pushing for Vatican II, and the trads are stuck fighting against Vatican II. And the younger people are like, we want to talk about Jews and race. It's like we want to talk about Jews, blacks, and interracial marriage.
I mean, seriously,
older people are like, what is going on right now?
If you're going to continue to just completely dismiss someone like Nick Fuentes, so you can write your 30th book about, the true origins of the Roman Rite, guess what? Your movement's dead. It's dead in the water.
It's oh man. Wait. It's yeah. So, like, the younger generation wants to talk about feminism, interracial marriage, and Jews, and they're all harping on the same topics. Like, and the thing is, like, I love a lot of these guys, right?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, we're kind of in this unique place where we were in, because that stuff was awesome back in 2017, 2018 when we were first learning it.
Yeah.
But we're also coming from that generation of JP2 and Benedict Catholic. So we're coming in with our preconceived notion of like we were the Pope splainers before this period. Okay, like when Francis first gets elected, my son did a book report, and he had to do a book report on a famous famous political figure, and he did it on Pope Francis. It was in like 2014. Like my son's born in 2005, so he was like 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he did a book report on Pope Francis because he's a newly elected Pope, and we were very Catholic, and he just did a book report on Pope Francis, and it was like, that's where we were coming from. So when we start learning about the Assisi meetings and start learning for the first time about the Fatima visions and all that stuff, like that stuff was really exciting for us. But the younger guys coming in today, it's a totally different conversation. Like completely different. So, all right, let's go through Majorian's tweet.
The online trad world increasingly feels like a middle-aged subculture arguing about abstractions, while young men are actually reacting to material conditions, power, discipline, and broader civilizational decline. A big part of this is that we're the ones actually living inside the decline. Young men feel it materially. We inherit the worst dating market in history. We're funneled into a credential mill where college yields debt while jobs are offshored or filled by H-1B labor. We will have to confront a housing market structure to functionally exclude us from ownership, all while we are saddled with the fiscal order that demands we service debts we never consented to in institutions that will never work for us. And while this is happening, it seems as though a lot of online trad space has drifted into unadulterated trad LARP, quote mining Aquinas, and moral posturing detached from any serious engagement with power, technology, geopolitics, etc. It's a subculture that constantly talks about a prescriptive vision for civilization while avoiding the descriptive element, aka the conditions that actually determine whether one rises or falls, or how to actually accomplish this supposed return to tradition. Moreover, there's no real future-oriented vision coming from that world. It's entirely retrospective. They'll point to the Middle Ages, point to Christendom, or some other lost order, all while there's no serious account of how a broken, debt-soaked, demographically collapsing, spiritually hollow civilization actually moves from here to there. There's no strategy for obtaining power, no roadmap for reversing institutional capture, or plan for rebuilding conditions that could sustain families, communities, or faith. There's essentially just Gregorian chant intros and endless, pointless bickering.
Let's pause there. We'll finish the rest. But like, dude, first off, this should be a crisis article.
No. Eric's too busy publishing articles, accusing
ruining our friendships, Rob.
You retweeted the thing too. I saw you. No, you didn't even retweet it. You copied and pasted.
I tweeted our interview with E. Michael Jones to E. Michael Jones criticizing what Eric Sammons posted in Crisis Magazine. Look, it's just, man, it's I'm watching this happen in real time.
That's kind of fair.
Yes, right? But that's kind of the point. Well, first off, yes and no. Like we've never really, like we've always discussed these topics because first off, we were learning them for the first time, right? But Rob and I have had a pretty good sense of like the tide changing, and we were like, all right, it's time to switch it up a little. And to be honest, for the most part, like the major topics we've done on this show that have really been like evergreen topics that I think our audience that have been around for a long time have always been the conversion of the pagan world, getting into young earth theory and evolution, discussing the JQ. Like these are the topics I think our audience sticks around for. Like they'll sit through stuff like we're doing tonight in order to get to the gems that we do every so often when when we decide to do a deep dive, because you do have to give your audience a little bit of variety. You can't do the same thing every time. You have to try to appeal to a wider audience by, every once in a while you got to talk about how Matt Fradd is wearing a yarmulke now. Like you just kind of have to do it because that's what everybody wants to tune into. And you hope that when they catch that show, you make a few funny jokes and they go, oh, I kind of like these guys and I'll check them out. And then they stick around and then they're around for one of those deep dives. And you wind up getting a DM like we got from Fed Calderon the other day, where he's like, hey, I was introduced to typology by listening to you guys. Cause he started off listening to us goof around about topical things. and he stuck around for some of those biblical deep dives, right? So that's kind of just how content creation works. You have to because I want to be careful not to say that we're doing it for the audience. It's always kind of been, I kind of see where I know what I'm into. Like, I know that I have fatigue of certain topics, and I'm like, I'm done talking about that. Like, I'm even tired of talking about, I didn't even want to talk about the Roche thing tonight, but I figured it could lead into a conversation like this, right? Like, I don't actually
right. We should have all expected that document from Roche.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like, it was almost surprised by it. Wake up.
Yeah, like we've kind of been trying to warn everybody since Leo was elected, like, don't expect much. Like, he is the embodiment of the council, right? He's the Pope, but he is the embodiment of the council, and in a way that he has moved the Overton window now, where it kind of, so Francis ratchets it over and then Leo settles it in on a spot. So you're not going to get any kind of return, like Mueller's comment. Mueller was like, the Church of Benedict is gone, and it is, in a way, and in a way it's not, because Benedict is just as much a council guy as anyone.
Yeah,
it's really just another like, Francis was a revolutionary, man. He came in and he ratcheted it so far, and Leo's like, I'm going to take what he did and I'm going to settle it in on a place where, and look, it has strangely brought some kind of calm to the situation, even though we don't like the calm where it's landed. No, I think Francis's election is similar to Trump. I don't compare Leo to Trump as much as I do Francis to Trump. Like, the only similarities you have between Leo and Trump is that he's an American and Trump's an American, and I think that's actually a really interesting angle, that we have basically the American empire with Trump essentially becoming Caesar at this point, like the way he's operating. And then you have an American Pope at the same time, which is basically a bishop from the Roman Empire. It's like the new Roman Empire is now the Bishop of Rome. There's something interesting going on there. I don't know how that plays out, but what's his name? Cameron O'Hearn said a couple of years back is actually kind of interesting. When he,
I'm looking at that in a different light these days.
He kind of sensed it, man. You got to give Cameron credit, because he kind of sensed, hey guys, I'm telling you right now, Trad World needs a rebrand. And I kind of agreed with him at the time a little bit. And I kind of had enough humility to go, I have no business getting in this debate because I'm a new trad. But I saw what was happening. I saw the purity spiraling. I saw what people were doing. And I was like, you're pushing people away from this thing. Because of the way you're coming off. You're talking to people who have been in the Novus Ordo their whole life and telling them they're stupid, instead of telling them, hey, look at this beautiful thing we have over here. You love the Catholic faith. Let me show you how it can get even deeper. Like, they weren't, man, it's crazy, because what they talked about at the consistory was like using attraction to, like, using beauty to attract people. And that like, if the church was actually concerned with evangelization, and especially through beauty, like they talked about at this consistory, because evangelization was one of the main topics they talked about, and they were like, we can't go through the same roads, we have to look at different ways, and we have to use basically an attraction model instead of proselytization, right? That's what Francis was saying all along. It's like that corny fake St. Francis quote, preach the gospel, use words when necessary. That's the thing they're going for. But if they actually cared about that, I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than the traditional liturgy, and you could attract, especially the young people now who are facing this meaning crisis, and they're looking for something more transcendent. But the church they don't want to go backwards to that, because as much as we got upset when Francis would call us rigid and stuff, Leo thinks the same thing of us.
Yes.
All these guys think the same thing of us. They think we're looking for some, man. I think back to just some of the boomers and their conversations with me about, like, in those times, I remember all the catchphrases they used, right? With the Catholic guilt and like all these little things they would say. It was like they were given magic spells, and they believe them, even though they don't actually it's like the church did these things for 1900 years, and they worked amazingly. And it's like all of a sudden this young generation in the 60s comes along. They're like, we could do everything better. And no matter how bad it gets, they still insist, like, no, we weren't wrong. We weren't wrong. They're doubling down. But the trads are doing a similar thing. In their reaction to it, and they're still talking about Vatican II, and like the young people don't care about Vatican II, like they don't want to hear about it. They just don't care. They just want to kind of be Catholic, and they're trying to figure out the best way to do it. And the way to do it is kind of talk about the things that are facing them. It's almost like the
T.L.M. Ryan had a good tweet in response to Majorian, I think. He said, what we really need to do is in the trad world is teach everyone how to live a traditional Catholic life, learn how to live a traditional Catholic life, live that traditional Catholic life for the next 100 years. And then when everyone involved in Vatican II is long dead and gone, then let's come back and actually evaluate it objectively and figure out.
Yeah, it's just not the time yet, man. It's not, but the thing is, I think the older trads had this model for how they did things, and it worked really well. Look, it worked really well from 2015.
I was gonna say it started working really well in 2007, and that's about it.
No. It started working really well even later. Well, I mean the media aspect, not like it started working really well in like the Latin mass.
Yeah,
aspect,
I suppose
like
the media aspect. Yeah,
the media aspect. You got to think about what happens in 2015 is podcasts pop off, YouTube pops off, right? Like 07, everybody gets their first iPhone, basically.
Yeah, well,
it's like 07. I got my
07 it launches.
I got my iPhone 4 in 2007 or something.
No,
or maybe
iPhone
2010
launches, and yeah,
Maybe
2010 I think is iPhone 4.
Yeah, so like the YouTube isn't as nearly as main. Like if you got on YouTube in 2010, you're Mr. Beast at this point. That's what like he started.
Chocolate Thunder is basically YouTube at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what happens is like Taylor and Tim like Taylor's got his podcast he's doing. It's doing like mediocre. He's got like 30,000 followers or something, which is, I mean, it's huge in, for a lot of people, but he's getting like steady views. And then all of a sudden McCarrick breaks and Taylor starts interviewing Tim Gordon, and that show exploded. Mm-hmm. And then everybody starts jumping on the bandwagon. You get everybody jumping over to the online thing. And it's like, okay, let me start my YouTube channel. Last time I saw John Henry Weston, he was telling me, he's like, so he starts his YouTube channel. And he said, before COVID, so before COVID, he goes, we could sneeze, put the video up, and we would get 50,000 views. Like, that's just how it was. If you were a Catholic content creator back then, your stuff was blowing up. Then COVID hits, everybody's trapped in their houses. And anybody that had a YouTube channel during this time, it just exploded. Like, people are trapped in their houses looking for stuff to watch. So all these guys that had channels during that time, they're talking about this stuff, and like, you're facing this crisis because the Pope is hammering down. First off, the Pope is pushing the vaccine, and it's like, you're a Catholic and you're like, I don't want to get this thing, and the Pope is pushing it. Everybody's got, it was just like, man, even like Patrick Coffin back then was interviewing people where you were just like, you had to see the interview because they were the first ones speaking out against this crazy thing that the government was doing. It was just this explosion in Catholic media that was happening. And it was even breaking outside of the typical Catholic media spaces where, like, I think Coffin was interviewing like RFK Jr. before he was even like a political candidate or anything. He was just a lawyer back then, and he was looking at this stuff. Like, that's where it was at. And everybody that blew up during this time assumed their growth would continue.
Yeah.
And they just all assumed it. Like, and Rob and I missed the boat by a year.
So true.
We missed that boat by a year. If I'd have started this show in March of 2020 instead of March of 2021, our show would be gigantic.
150,000 subs.
Yeah, easily. We'd be bigger than Lofton and stuff, like, and we wouldn't have to buy subs. I'm kidding. Just
as opposed to Lofton. Not that we, yeah.
All right. Anyway, our show would be much bigger. We got in a little bit late to the game. And we've still managed to grow really well. You know what I mean? But the people who blew up during that time, there was a huge contraction that happened. Maybe it's better that we didn't, because we kind of came in as the contraction was happening. People were going back to their normal life. So our expectations weren't high like that, where these people that come in during that, they have this model. It's like Francis is coming out with some crazy ass thing every single day of his pontificate. There's new news to jump on, and they're doing the same thing over and over. And even then, Rob and I were sensing, like, I don't want to talk about this crap anymore, man. Like, we just didn't want to talk about this crap. So, like, if something major broke, we would discuss it, but we weren't harping on Francis every day. We weren't harping on the hierarchy every day. Like,
there's maybe a
handful of shows,
maybe a period of a few months, but we both kind of realized it and reined ourselves in. I think
reined ourselves in because it was bad for us. Like,
it
just wasn't.
It was terrible.
It wasn't good for us. Like, because this show has always been, for me, a good outlet to be able to, like, voice anything I wanted to. You know, it's a place for me to kind of throw jokes out there, see what lands, and talk about whatever's happening in the culture. But, like, I didn't ever want to be like the show that criticizes the church. Like we didn't get into doing this because we wanted to be critical of the church. In fact,
we started with, like, trivia.
Yeah, it was like the opposite of that. It was like, man, I guess we should talk about this. I guess we should talk about this. So it was like, yeah, this is a long time listener until Joe came on with you drunk.
Which Joe?
Joe Boca. We got a little.
Oh man, I was not happy about that.
Yeah, that episode was funny. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even know how we got into, like, this whole diatribe, but it's just,
wait. Did you have a different name on YouTube before? Because I don't remember seeing this YouTube handle that far back.
Yeah. Let's jump to super chats, and I want to do Scott Adams before we go to the other side.
Okay. So we already read
we did that one. Yeah. Most trads are just wanting to seek to live a life of holiness, and they are sick of the drama and just want to be left alone. Go to confession often and receive the Eucharist often. Pray the Lord. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't really care. Like, I still have my liturgy that I can go to. I still have a Latin mass. It's like, I got a couple of options. So I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to provoke anyone. And I just want to be able to be Catholic. I want my kids to be Catholic. And that's it.
When Anthony and I were talking in this episode largely about trads, for the most part, I think we were talking about, like, the trad media, the trad writers. Like, we're not.
Yeah, not your everyday.
Yeah, I'm not claiming, like, the trads as a whole are old boomers like the Novus Ordo. No, I haven't been in the Novus Ordo in a year. I only go to the TLM. I know what the TLM is like, guys. But
yeah, on the ground, there's still plenty of young people there. They're young families. They're all guys in their mid to late 20s and stuff. It's definitely still. What Rob's talking about is just the rebrand. Like, it needs a rebrand. That's essentially what we're getting at, right? It kind of does need a rebrand so that we could attract younger people to it again, because I think it's lost its appeal. The appeal that worked in 2020 doesn't work now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whatever.
We're not saying the traditional faith needs a rebrand.
Correct. No. It's just the presentation from guys who are in the space that we're in. We need to rebrand this thing because it's not attractive to people. People are looking at trads like they think they're holier than thou. They think that, and a lot of it has to do with sedes. Like, sedes are really, they're a bit much, and people associate all trads with sedes, and it's like it is a difficult thing to try to, like, present this thing as something beautiful that's changed my life. I mean, it's changed my life. That's the thing. Like, I want the traditional movement to stay alive. Like, I very much care about it. So, wow, man, you guys are killing us with the super chats. I wanted to get to Scott Adams and then go to locals. As a single Catholic, it's difficult finding a Catholic lady who didn't get the jab. It's crazy how many Catholics took it. It's a total deal breaker. Shows how easily speed one can be.
I have an opinion many people may not like on this one. If I was a Catholic guy, I don't know if I would necessarily want a woman who, okay, 'cause think of it this way. All of society right? Everyone in authority, probably her own father, was at that time telling everyone to get the jab.
Yeah.
A woman should ideally submit to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a
To her
sense,
father,
right?
especially. If her
You
father
don't
told her to
want a
get it.
rebellious woman who would, under no set, who said no to everyone in authority over her.
I
Now,
understand
you're
the
right
people
about
who
the
feel that
deceived
way.
part. You are right. Like everyone, you don't want a woman that can necessarily be deceived easily either, but read Genesis. It seems to kind of be in their nature a little. I mean, no offense, ladies, but yeah, I don't know if that would be a deal breaker for me. So personally,
Man, these guys, they just want to keep us on YouTube all night.
if they're gonna pay us for it,
I mean, yeah, we'll do it. We'll still do locals. Don't worry. Taking my daughter to New York City end of January. TLM recommendations in Manhattan. Will be there for a long weekend. I would say, I mean, Holy Innocents, and if they have any at St. Vincent Ferrer, like if you can find one at St. Vincent Ferrer, which they do them. We actually caught one last Saturday when we were there, and they are spectacular. So check, but they're typically they do like a Benedictine Latin Novus Ordo there or something. But Holy Innocents is like clockwork. They do a 6 p.m. daily. They do a 9 a.m. and a 9:30. I'm sorry, a 9 a.m. low mass on Sunday and a 10:30 high mass on Sunday. There's also confession like 4 times a day, every day of the week. 6 years ago, wasn't a long time ago, but it was a long time ago in this decade. It's really been a dramatic half a freaking decade. Times are shaking up. Man, I can't believe it's 2026. I can't believe before COVID, I was in my 30s. Like I was 39 when COVID hit. No, 37 when COVID hit or something, right? Yeah, 37 when COVID hit.
Now you're in your mid 40s almost.
Yeah, I'm 43. So, what's next? Stop giving me money. I want to talk more about it.
The next one is along those lines too.
Keep yapping here, funny Long Island man. All right, I'll keep going. You guys want to keep giving me money?
No, that's it. They want us to stay. They got to throw some more in.
People becoming members telling us to go to locals. Go to locals. I do want to do Scott Adams before we go.
Okay.
Let's do Scott Adams before we go because man, what an interesting case of everybody coming out and saying, praise God, Scott Adams converted.
Oh, yeah. You don't look a day over 50, and he doesn't sound a day over 75.
Yeah, I do have a gravelly voice. I'll give you guys that. I quit smoking. I'm hoping that goes away a little bit.
I don't know if that regenerates necessarily.
I hope it does. Because I like first off, if you hear me coughing a lot, it's because I'm like, there's so much crap coming out of my lungs right now because I haven't had a cigarette in a week. But Scott Adams, can we bring his thing up? I put it in the Telegram. So everybody was kind of really, really happy that Scott Adams seems to have converted on his deathbed. I saw pretty much every social media influencer raving about it. I have a little bit more of a negative view on it. Can you make that bigger?
Give me a second. Hold on. Let me take this off and open it.
I might be able to just read it from my phone.
No, I can make it bigger. Okay, let me.
Okay, so final message from Scott Adams. If you are reading this, things did not go well for me. I have a few things to say before I go. My body failed before my brain. I am of sound mind as I write this. If you wonder about any of my choices, so he goes through that. So now, next, many of my Christian friends have asked me to find Jesus before I go. I'm not a believer, but I have to admit the risk-reward calculation for doing so looks attractive, so here I go. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I look forward to spending an eternity with him. The part about me not being a believer should be quickly resolved if I wake up in heaven. I won't need any more convincing than that, and I hope I'm still qualified for entry. With your permission, I'd like to explain something about my life. So that, all right, so everybody's raving that Scott's last word with his dying breath, he professed faith in Jesus Christ.
He wrote that 12 days ago.
Yes. So that wasn't his dying breath, first off. The thing is, well, that's it did make me think of that, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I have more faith that Constantine actually meant it.
And not just meant that he had a valid baptism.
And he did a hell of a lot more for the church when he was alive.
Yeah. And the thing is, my issue with it is that Protestants have put out this silly notion that we are saved by a set of magic words.
100% Pelagianism.
The Sola Scriptura people have come up with a phrase that's not even in the Bible and made people think that if you just say these magic words, you're going to heaven. And it is so insane. It's not the same as, because somebody did say, it's like when Augustine said, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. And maybe there's a hint of that. And like, maybe there's a hint of like,
I think people were really reaching with that one.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think it's good to go out professing that Scott Adams had a deathbed conversion when that's the statement he put out.
Plus,
it's better to tell people, do not do what Scott Adams did, because there are no real atheists in the foxhole. Like, you don't want to wait until you're on your deathbed to start pondering life's most important question. Where did I come from? And was I created for a purpose? Like that is the fundamental question. Is there a God? And if so, why did he create me? And the reality is he created you as a wedding gift for his son. Like that's actually the answer to that question. You were created as a wedding gift for his son. Like that's actually why you were created.
Plus, I mean, as far as looking at this from a Catholic perspective, though, if he wasn't baptized, it doesn't matter what the hell.
And then people were telling me, well, what about baptism of desire? It's like, this guy had plenty of time to get baptized. There's no baptism of desire going on.
I'm sorry, there's nothing in there that shows me he wanted to be baptized.
Now, another angle of this that is interesting is that, like, the lack of, okay, so I was telling Rob this in the green room, like, the reason the Catholics in America will outlast the Protestants is a big part of that is the Sunday obligation, because where we're heading now is the online church thing, right? So like all these Protestants have these online ministries and like a lot of Protestants think that is a substitute for church. Correct. Yeah. So for the people that are listening, let me read that.
But baptism of desire only comes with true desire and perfect contrition for one's sins. He doesn't seem sorry for anything. I think Crash Cannon said baptism of desire is essentially really for martyrs who can't be baptized before they are killed. Like it's meant for catechumens who were killed before they
who
hadn't
had a chance to get baptized yet, but something happened while they were in. But this is also why the church has this catechumen period where you go through a year. It's the same thing with that Lily Phillips chick who just goes and gets baptized. She's like, well, I haven't changed anything I do. I just went and got baptized. And it's like the idea that you could just baptize anybody is crazy. You have to make sure they're formed in the faith, or they have parents who are going to raise them in the faith.
Otherwise, you're actually just helping damn them further.
Yes, because you're making them an apostate, right? So I do know somebody who baptized a baby that wasn't Catholic. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, don't ever do that. You're basically,
unless they are in imminent danger of death.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
Yeah, it's like, the Scott Adams thing is interesting because of the online, like people are replacing real community with online community. And that's a major problem in Protestantism, like especially after COVID. Like a lot of people stopped going to church during COVID and they just never went back, right? The question I had for you was like, if we didn't have a Sunday obligation as Catholics, do you think you would go to masses frequently, or do you think you would miss a little more frequently without a Sunday obligation?
I mean, that's going to depend. With a 2-hour drive to a Latin Mass with no Sunday obligation, there wouldn't be going to the local Novus Ordo on days I couldn't make it to the TLM.
I saw Paul posted something today, and I typically I'll check out Paul, but I kind of do get some of the he's constantly talking about these parasocial relationships, and he's always talking about how like people have replaced real connection with the online stuff, you know. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely influenced by Paul. So it's one of the people who've influenced my thought on this. Like Scott doesn't have a church, like he didn't have a pastor come to him or a priest come to him. There was no last rites given. and for, you know, like, I don't know, only God, we can't begin
I'm
to
not gonna
fathom God's mercy. Yeah,
I'm not gonna say he's
like,
damned, but
you
I'm
absolutely
not
should
gonna
pray
say
for
he's
his soul.
saved.
No, you should. That's the point, right? You should pray for his soul. You should pray for his soul is the point. Like, assume he's going to purgatory. At best.
I will not assume that.
Oh, hope.
I will.
Dare we
I
hope
will
all men go
hope.
to purgatory? So Fed, our resident Protestant. That's true. Protestant pastors, in an effort not to offend people, tell us being in church in person is good, but not required. The lack of a sense of obligation, as in Christ requires us to be in church, feeds the flesh, and people see it as optional. It's very important to have. It's not just good to have community. Like, man, this is going to get into the Joel Webben stuff, because I'm watching Protestants telling him, you separated yourself from the visible church. I'm like, what are you people saying? You people sound like you're Catholic right now. What are you talking about? Separated himself from the visible church. I thought the church was made up of a body of invisible believers who just like-minded believers, and the church is not visible like that. Like, the wackiness that you hear come out of evangelicalism, sometimes you're just like, man, you guys have to maintain a steady position. But pray for Scott Adams. Scott Adams he's done a lot of good for a lot of people. I saw a Catholic account, Creation 247 or something, talking about how, like, listening to Scott in 2016 actually made him change his perspective on business and everything. Like, Scott taught him about, like, persuasion, and then the guy was able to, you know, get his ass in gear to start his own business and stuff. Like, Scott did a lot of good in the natural order.
I never listened to him. All I know is he did the Dilbert thing. Maybe that's why it's easy for me to say, like, all evidence shows he's as likely in hell as in heaven. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no connection to the guy.
I won't presume to know God's mercy. I won't presume to know if Scott actually had repented. That was my main issue, is that he said the magic words, but it wasn't like I am depending on Christ for mercy for the wicked things I've done in my life or anything. You know what I mean? It wasn't that, because people were throwing the thief on the cross at me, and it's like, the thief on the cross is like, I deserve to be here. Like, please, Lord, remember me when you come in your kingdom. Like, he repents on the cross. He's punished for his sins. I mean, there's a list of things I could tell you. Plus, he had Our Lady praying for him at the foot of his cross. We all know. So, all right, we're going to jump over to locals now, and I want to talk about the Protestant schism going on, and I want to talk to you guys about my weekend that I have coming up. That hold on
before we go. Maddie would kill me if I don't get him and Iggy in here just for a second to talk to you.
You want to do it on here or on locals?
Maddie wants to be able to see it on YouTube.
Okay, bring him in,
because he was on YouTube on Guns and Rosaries last night. Give me a second. I'll tell Hope to send him in
for a sec. I'll go through comments. Let's see. I attend a Latin Novus Ordo at an FSP parish once a month, 3-hour drive. I have an SSPX chapel that is closer than both of those, and I'm genuinely not sure if I should attend there. I'm in a similar situation. I have a society chapel that's very close.
Okay, but you're not you.
It's not that I'm not sure if I should go. I
prefer not to.
I choose to go to the diocesan. So,
right.
Let's see.
I would personally, if I had an SSPX chapel as far as my diocesan TLM, I would go to the SSPX every week. Not even to say if it was closer than everything else. If it was closer than everything else, of course I would. But are you frozen?
No. I'm looking at comments. So Scott really pulled it. I'm not used. You're not used to me being quiet.
No, quieter still. Yeah.
Scott pulled a doubting Thomas. I guess I'll believe when I see heaven. I don't know if that's even. man, it would just seem like a magic formula to me. That's what kind of took me aback. It was like, well, I said the magic words, and that's kind of how it is presented in the mainstream evangelical circles nowadays. Now they'll tell you that's not. Like, I've seen plenty of Protestants call this out, but like that is essentially what they have promoted over the years as saying, accept Jesus as have you accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior?
Right.
So Scott's like, okay, I accept Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. He does Pascal's wager. He's like, well, I'm hedging my bet. That's essentially what he said. I'm hedging my bet. Like the odds, you know, all I got to do is say this magic formula and possibly get eternity with Jesus Christ instead of nothing in his mind. Like he thinks it's either Jesus Christ or he doesn't even believe there's going to be eternal torment. Yeah, Pascal's wager. That's how I read that when I first, because he started talking about this like a week or two ago.
The thing is, it really isn't though, because Pascal's wager was, if I live my life as a faithful Catholic,
yeah,
I will be saved. You know,
yeah.
And Blaise Pascal was a very faithful Catholic, to the point was he was closely tied in with a very radical traditionalist, in a sense, sect called Jansenism, but still. Not that Jansenism really wasn't traditional. Guys, don't get pissed off at that. But
how's Iggy doing? Is he coming?
I haven't. Sure, we can go over to locals. It'll be fine.
All right, yeah. Let's hit locals. We'll bring him on over there. You could just show Maddie the clip from locals.
Let me get the link in the comments for everyone.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't locals members, that's usually where we have a little more fun. If you guys can like and subscribe, if you guys aren't, that would help. Always helps the channel. Like and subscribe. And there are still spots left on the Italy pilgrimage. If anybody's interested, email me at anthony@avoidingbabylon.com and join our locals. That's where we have a lot of fun.
Do I have any fun videos to play?
All right, everybody get in the locals chat. We're going over. You're supposed to have one of these on, like, ready to go.
I mean, you've all heard it a few times, but we'll do this one.
Come to the feast of heaven and earth. Come to the table of plenty. God will provide for all that we need here at the table of plenty.
Oh, come and sit at my table, where saints and sinners are friends. I wait to welcome no lost and lonely to share the cup of my love. Come to the feast of heaven and earth. Come to the table of plenty.
God will provide for all that we need here at the table of plenty.